Hi, everyone. My name is Colin Helms, and I'm a financial aid counselor in the Office of Student Financial Aid and University Scholarships here at Appalachian State University. Thank you for joining us for our open house presentation today. We'll be covering information on paying for college and the financial aid process. We do have several counselors joining us today, so please feel free to use the chat feature to talk with any of them. Remember, this is a public presentation, so we want to protect your information. If we ask you to email our office, please know that this is not an attempt at dodging your questions. We just want to have a more in-depth conversation that will allow us to best answer your questions, provide support, and protect your confidential information. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. The financial aid process all begins with completing the FAFSA, or the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. This is completed at studentaid.gov. The first word of that acronym, FREE, is incredibly important. If you find yourself on a website trying to complete the FAFSA and you're asked to provide any type of financial information, please stop immediately and contact our office. We'll make sure we get you right back to studentaid.gov so that you can complete the correct application. This should never cost you anything. The FAFSA opens every year on October 1st for the upcoming academic year. We always encourage students to complete this application early, so as close to that date as possible. The FAFSA is valid for the fall, spring, and summer terms. So the FAFSA that just opened on October 1st is good for the fall of 2021, the spring of 2022, and the summer of 2022. For the FAFSA, a student and at least one parent will need to create an FSA ID and password. This will be the same each year that you complete the FAFSA, so make sure that you write it down or memorize it so that you can have it to successfully log in from one year to the next. We also ask that when you're creating this information, that you don't use an email that will expire, such as your high school email address. Lastly, you will want to make sure you have Appalachian school code, which is 002906. Using this code on the FAFSA will make sure that we receive your specific transaction. But don't worry, if you aren't able to remember that number, we do have it listed on our financial aid website, and you can also use a search tool within the FAFSA that will allow you to search for Appalachian and it'll populate the school code. So, when completing the FAFSA, once it's been submitted, there is a chance that you could be selected for a process called verification. More specifically, 1 in 3 FAFSA applications are selected for this process. Please know that if you are selected for verification, it does not mean you've done anything wrong. This is the FAFSA's way of completing an internal audit to just make sure that the process is working correctly. If selected for verification, there are a few documents that we would have to collect and verify. Some is just a collection of who is in the household, and of those individuals, how many are in college. But then we also might have to verify tax information from 2019. This would mean collecting signed copies of 2019 tax returns and W-2s from that same year. However, you can use the IRS data retrieval tool to help simplify the process. This makes completing your FAFSA easier, and it helps you get through verification easier if you are selected. This specific tool is embedded into the FAFSA and allows you to automatically populate your 2019 tax information from the IRS into your application. This makes it much simpler if you're selected for verification because we would not have to request any of your tax documents for that year. It is important to note that we cannot award financial aid until verification is fully complete. This is another reason why we push for that October 1st date. The sooner you apply for the FAFSA, the sooner we can work with you to get through the verification process. One final thing to note here is that changing your FAFSA after you've been awarded can result in adjustments to your aid package. If you've already completed and submitted a FAFSA, and then you go in and make changes, you're essentially submitting a new application and you're placed back into the pool for that 1 in 3 chance of being selected for verification. This means our office could have awarded you aid that now has to be placed on hold until you complete all of the necessary requirements for verification. This also means that your aid could change as a result of the verification process. So please feel free to contact our office when you're completing the FAFSA the first time, and we'd be more than happy to help you answer any questions you might have or complete that application. We even host a day in the fall, it's called FAFSA Day, where we help students and their families complete the FAFSA application. Please be on the lookout for more information from our office about when that date's going to be this year. We would love to help you complete your application. Now let's talk a little bit about the cost of attendance, which you also might hear our office referred to as the COA or even as your budget. It's important to note that this is not your bill. The COA is an estimate of educational expenses created to help you plan and prepare for an academic year. The estimate there is really key because certain components of your budget are considered direct or billed cost, while others are considered indirect or incidental costs for the year. You'll notice in the figure that we're using an estimate for the 2021-2022 academic year. So that will include both the fall and spring semesters. Highlighted in gold are tuition and fees and room and board. Those are considered direct costs as they are billed to you. The other line items, such as books and supplies and transportation, those are considered indirect or incidental costs. These are not going to be included on the bill, but are included in the COA because students can obtain aid to try and help cover some of these expenses. For example, within the transportation column, students could use this for gas to come to or from Boone, or for personal and miscellaneous expenses, students may be needing a winter jacket or winter boots for being here in town as well. Also, within books and supplies, there are some programs that have students purchase additional materials so that they can complete their assignments. This would include students in an arts program or folks that are in industrial design. Now let's talk a little bit about sources of aid, and specifically need-based aid. Financial aid is divided into two different types of aid. There is need-based and non-need-based aid. So we're going to jump in and talk about each of those. For financial need, it's calculated through the FAFSA. So using various data elements from the application, the Department of Education is able to create an EFC, or expected family contribution. This is how much it's expected or potentially estimated that the family can contribute towards a student's education for an academic year. So to determine financial need, our office takes the cost of attendance, we subtract the expected family contribution from the FAFSA, and if there's a positive figure left over, that is what is considered a student's financial need. A student cannot be awarded more need-based aid than that figure. So now let's talk about a couple of different types of need-based aid. They include federal and state grants, scholarships, federal work-study, and the subsidized student loan. We'll now go ahead and talk about each of those in a little bit more depth. Starting with grants, there are state and federal grants that students might be eligible for, but the eligibility is determined by the FAFSA and certain data elements, including the tax information that's provided, the household size, assets, and more. Grants can be awarded also on a first-come, first-served basis. This is just one additional reason why we encourage students to file their FAFSA as close to the October 1st date as possible. Another form of need-based aid is federal work-study. This is a federally funded program that provides students with an opportunity to work a job on campus. This is a great chance for students to develop soft skills, get experience in the workplace, and also earn a little bit of money while in school. The funding for this is limited, and so students who are interested in work study will want to answer yes to the federal work study question on the FAFSA. Our office then will begin awarding eligible students until we are running out of funding. Generally, students can earn up to $1,000 per semester from federal work study, and those funds are paid directly to the student through a paycheck. They are not automatically applied to the bill. For these positions, students are also generally working between 5 and 10 hours per week, but the schedules are nice because they always work around the student's academic schedule first, and students do not have to work on any of the university holidays. If a student is unable to obtain a federal work-study position, but they're still interested in working a job on campus, there are other opportunities through student temporary employment. For more information about other on-campus jobs, you can navigate to studentemployment.appstate.edu. Scholarships. These are a great form of need-based aid that students can apply for, obtain, and then help use to pay for college. Institutional scholarships are a great option. I know admissions is going to talk a lot about these, but you can also find additional information at scholarships.appstate.edu about those opportunities. Also included within institutional scholarships, there are departmental scholarships that students can apply for after they have declared a major. Students generally officially declare at the start of their sophomore year. So once they've obtained around 30 credit hours, we encourage those students to talk specifically with their academic departments to learn more information about what scholarship opportunities might be available, application information, and deadlines. There are also state scholarships that are available for North Carolina residents to apply for. Those can be found at cfnc.org and ncommunityfoundation.org. These are excellent resources for our in-state students, and the tools are also nice because students have the ability to use a search feature where they can search for scholarships specifically by the county that they live in. And in addition to the above, we also encourage students to look for local opportunities and alternative resources. It's always nice to start by chatting with any type of philanthropic organization within your community, such as the Lions Club or Rotary. They generally offer scholarship opportunities. If you, the student, are employed, check with your employer. See if they have any type of scholarship that you might be able to apply for. And then for our parents and guardians, also check with your employers to find out if they have scholarships that are for dependents of employees. There are lots of opportunities out there, and it can take a little bit of time, but it's worth asking and checking and utilizing these resources. But know that we are also here to help. We want to help connect you with scholarship opportunities, help you use scholarship databases in a way that will effectively serve you and help you find scholarships for which you are eligible. If at any point you are applying or looking into a scholarship and you're not sure if it's legitimate or if they've asked you for payment information or for some confidential information like your social security number, please contact our office. You should never have to pay for a scholarship application. You should never be asked for your social security number. We are more than happy to take a look to try to verify whether or not the scholarship is legitimate. If you have applied and received a scholarship, know that scholarship checks should be mailed to Appalachian Student Accounts Office, and make sure that your name, your full name, and your banner ID number are included with that check. This allows us to make sure that the funds do get added to your financial aid award for the academic year. Now, I know loans are generally not what people think of when they think of financial aid, but federal student loans are an exception. There are two types of federal student loans that a student might be able to obtain. These are the exception because they do not require the student to complete an application, there is not a credit check, and the loans carry great interest rates and have excellent repayment terms and options. So the two loans are the subsidized and the unsubsidized federal student loans. The subsidized student loan is considered a need-based form of financial aid because the interest on that loan is subsidized by the government until 6 months after the student has graduated, withdrawn, or fallen below 6 credit hours for a term. The unsubsidized loan is not considered need-based aid. Interest does begin to accrue on this loan starting with the date of first disbursement to the institution. That being said, for each of the loans, the current interest rate is fixed at 2.75% for the life of those loans. The amount of eligibility that a student can have for these loans is determined by grade level and dependency status. This means that as students progress academically from one year to the next, their eligibility within the federal student loans can increase. If a student elects to borrow the federal student loans, there are two requirements they must complete in order to be an official borrower. The first is a master promissory note, or MPN. This is a student reviewing the terms and conditions of the loan and then agreeing to repay it in the future. The second is federal student loan entrance counseling. This is an educational resource tool that students must complete when first borrowing a loan. It provides additional information about interest rates, the loans, and repayment options. Both of those are completed at studentaid.gov, where the student will sign in using the FSA ID and password that they created to complete the FAFSA. One additional note here is that entrance counseling is available to students throughout their entire academic career. This is a resource that they can reference back to and utilize from one year to the next to try to continue to get a holistic picture of their total borrowing. One additional federal loan is the Federal Parent Plus loan. This is a loan that would technically be borrowed by the parent, and any funds paid to the institution would be from the parent on behalf of the student. For this loan, there is an application process and a credit check. The application for this loan can also be found at studentaid.gov, where the parent will have to sign in using their FSA ID and password. The interest rate for this loan is fixed at 5.3% for the life of the loan. And when reviewing the application, there is an option for parents to elect to have the same deferment of payment options that students have on their federal student loans. For more information about the Federal Parent Plus loan or the subsidized and unsubsidized loans, feel free to chat with one of our counselors, or you can find information at studentaid.gov. For award information, it is predominantly and primarily communicated to the student through AppleNet and through your student email address, specifically your edappstate.edu email. We communicate with the student predominantly, but there are opportunities for us to communicate with a parent or guardian if they have been granted parent access. FERPA, or the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, prevents our office from providing any specific information about the student's financial aid to anyone who has not been granted access or given access by the student. In order to be granted access, the student must grant access and assign a PIN through their AppleNet, and the individual must be listed on the FAFSA. Once parent access has been granted, our office can then speak freely with the individual about the student's financial aid, their verification requirements, the bill, and more. Disbursement is when your financial aid pays to your bill. Please know that financial aid pays to your bill only when all requirements are satisfied and no sooner than 10 days before classes begin. Some financial aid cannot cover certain charges like the university health insurance. This means if you receive a financial aid refund, please log in to the Billing and Payment Center by TouchNet to make sure that your balance is zero. If you do not elect to waive the university's health insurance, you might have to use some of your financial refund to pay off that charge. If a student receives any aid that exceeds the bill, it is refunded to the student after classes begin. Refunds are processed by the Office of Student Accounts and are generally sent to the student through paper check. However, there is a faster way to get your refund. We encourage students to fill out the direct deposit information on the Billing and Payment Center by TouchNet. This allows the Student Accounts Office to directly deposit the refund into the bank account the student has indicated. For more information about refunds or the billing process, you can go to studentaccounts.appstate.edu. And with that, we just want to provide a little bit more information about how our office is trying to best serve students and families during this time. We are offering virtual appointments and virtual walk-in hours daily. You can find information about signing up for a virtual appointment or the link to join our virtual walk-in hours at financialaid.appstate.edu. We have also listed our additional contact information on the screen Feel free to take a picture of this. We'd be more than happy to hear from you either via email or by giving our office a call. We have also provided information about where our office is located on campus because students do currently have the option to utilize our drop-off box located in the financial aid lobby if they want to deliver their verification documents that way. And with that, we do still have our financial aid counselors available and ready to answer any additional questions you may have or to provide additional clarification about anything that's been discussed in this presentation. I want to thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.